Hello everyone, my name is Kaiju Cooper and we're back with another upload, and today I thought we'd switch it up because all the Transformers reviews, I do still enjoy doing those, but let's be real, the Godzilla videos are the one that rake in the views. I gotta grow this channel somehow, you know? I really wasn't planning on doing any Godzilla reviews, but then I went to Target today looking for Transformers, obviously, and they had Godzilla collectibles in the collectible section, which was weird to me because typically when I go to stores, I don't see any Godzilla collectibles. They only have the Godzilla vs. Kong Playmates toys. They don't typically have actual Toho Godzilla action figures, but today ended up being different. Now, I've never seen these articulated Bandai figures before. I'm most familiar with Bandai with the movie Monster series, things of that nature. Yeah, this is really interesting to me because I don't really follow Godzilla that much anymore, but these are more in the NECA price range, and back when NECA still had the license, that was my absolute favorite Godzilla stuff. It's really great to have something in that affordable price point that is, you know, fully articulated. It's not like a movie Monster series with just some leg and arm swivels. So this seemed really cool. While he is still in the packaging, we can take a look at it. We get the Godzilla logo up here, Bandai Namco, Godzilla in Japanese letters here. This is an old photo of the actual Bandai America Godzilla 1954 figure. Godzilla logo, turn it to the side. There's a render of Godzilla -1. Although on the box, for some reason, he's called Godzilla 2023, which I find a bit odd. I feel like -1 is much more identifiable. Other side, Godzilla 2023 again. Backside, it shows you the other figures you can collect in the set. I did see these two as well, but they did not look as interesting. I really wanted to have more Godzilla -1 merch. Made in China, a bunch of legal information here. Very cool looking figure, and if there's any more figures in this line, let me know in the comments. I would love to check more of these out. But we're gonna go ahead and crack this guy open real quick, if I can get my old ass box cutter to work. I guess we'll just go in through the bottom here. Put in that. Open that right up. Ooh, okay. This looks a lot different than I was expecting on the inside of the box. The leg and arm is detached, along with the tail here. I thought it was just curved, honestly. Okay, that's really interesting. So this is a clamshell. This comes off. Here is part of the figure, and oh goodness, he is looking very interesting there. We're just gonna take a second to get the whole figure put together. Here's the other leg here. Looks like it just snaps on via ball joint. The arm here, this is the, oh my god. This is the ball here. Put it into the socket. There we go. And there's the arm. And finally, for the two sections of the tail here, we're gonna put on. Okay, it seems this end part plugs into the larger section of the tail. This is a much tighter fit. There's not a satisfying click this time. And then ball joint up Godzilla's butt. There we go. Nice good click that time. Okay, and here he is. There is one accessory in the box, this atomic breath piece, but we'll get to that later, I guess. Anyways, here's Godzilla all out of the packaging. I gotta say, this figure looks pretty all right. Definitely expected a little bit more from this product overall, but I don't think it's too horrible. This is definitely a serviceable Godzilla figure. Honestly, I'm just happy some Godzilla -1 merchandise was able to make it into a regular store and isn't overpriced at some Hot Topic or weird collectible hobby store. It's nice to see that there's some kind of wide release of merchandise for this movie. Godzilla here is looking pretty decent. I gotta say, one of my problems with this guy smack dab out of the box is that he's very glossy. He doesn't have a very matte finish. And I think that's just because the plastic they used here is a little bit on the cheaper side. Definitely not as cheap as, say, a Playmates figure. But a more matte finish here definitely would have been more desired. I would have preferred that over this glossier appearance, especially considering how roughly textured he looks in the movie. The sculpt work here is honestly really good for the type of plastic and the way the sculpt breaks for the joints. I'd say the tail, the legs, the arms all have really great texturing along with the spines here on the back. But the texturing and sculpting kind of falls apart when you get to the front here. As you'll notice at the chest, the sculpting gets a lot softer and a lot smoother, where the texturing all over the rest of the figure kind of just flattens out and it looks a lot blockier and low quality. Same goes for the head. There's no real sculpted in teeth here. They're all pretty much painted on some gummy slabs. I think the sculpting here should have been focused at the head and the chest, because that's where you are going to be looking at the figure the most. When you have a conversation with someone, either you're looking them in the face or at their chest. And Godzilla does not have a well-sculpted face or boobs. Another little problem I have with the sculpt here is that if you come up to the hands, you'll see they're in a paw shape. This is not like a claw hand at all. He's got them all lined up next to one another. You cannot discern which finger is his thumb. He doesn't really have a thumb. He's not a cat. I don't know why his hands are sculpted like this. It's a little awkward to say the very least, and I think that was just a very poor design choice. I will give Bandai the benefit of the doubt since this is an earlier release of theirs. I'll give them a little bit more leniency here, but it's just kind of sad to see such a interesting design and such a wide release of the newest version of this character kind of be undercooked to the degree that it is here. The painting here, I think, is just plain mediocre as well. The figure is this gray color almost all the way through with very little color breakup until you get to the front here, where you get these speckles of brown done on the chest here and on the thighs and shoulders. Coming to the front here, I'm assuming this is meant to replicate some kind of color pattern from the movie, but it comes off really cheap here as well. It's not done very nicely. The dry brushing here on the legs and arms on the raised parts of the sculpt are done very nicely though. I do like the way that brown pops. Now the painting on the head is a completely different conversation. He's got a scar here on the side of his face along with some painting on the top of his head to accentuate what sort of ridges he has on his head. I think the eyes are done pretty decently for the budget of this figure. They are pretty small. I wish there wasn't so much white. I would have preferred just straight up yellow or brown eyes. They also put a very deep shade of red in his mouth. The teeth are kind of painted on there. From the side, they look fine. From the front, they just kind of don't appear for some reason. Overall, it's a pretty mediocre paint job for a pretty mediocre sculpted head. I do like that they went to the effort of painting in his scar from the movie. That's nice. Now for the big selling point of this figure, which is the articulation. There's not really many affordable articulated Godzilla figures out there anymore. NECA was the last company to really do that. So having the mainstay toy company take a shot at some articulated Godzilla figures, I think is really interesting. The tail here, the joints themselves aren't too horrible, but the positioning of the cuts is what kind of makes the articulation back here super limited. You get a very weak ball joint at the tip of the tail that really only allows for a tiny bit of up and down. There is a better ball joint, this is probably the best one, at the midsection of the tail. I think there's also a hinge joint in there. You get some pretty good ball joint range out of that. Base of the tail is on a large ball joint. Doesn't get much range though due to the way the sculpt is cut. The head is cut around the neck and is on a very nice ball joint, but you can look up pretty far, down a really good amount as well. Good side to side. Now, despite the good head articulation, his jaw articulation is sadly a little bit lacking with just that ball joint there. I wish he was able to roar a little bit more. You can see he can't close his mouth fully either. Now, sadly, this figure does not have any waist articulation. That's a big waist. I'm so funny, I know, right? Continuing on with the articulation, there is a shoulder joint. There's two shoulder joints, I guess. There's a ball joint at the base and then this clicky hinge joint, but you get pretty good range with that. And the ball joint allows for, obviously, a nice swivel. The elbow can bend with another clicky hinge. The hands are pretty well articulated, even though they look like cat paws. You get a hinge at the bottom of it, and it's on a swivel, so that is pretty good right there. Get some nice range of motion with that. His hips are on ball joints. Sadly, he cannot spread it open for me, but they are able to go out just a tiny amount. His knees are on another hinge, but they can only click about once. Very limited range right here, sadly. The ankles, though, make up for it with a hinge to the side and a ball joint, which allows them to rock forward and backwards as well. Articulation here obviously is not on the level of any of the more collectible Godzilla figures, but to serve as a literal action figure that has more articulation than this piece of garbage right here, it certainly does that job pretty well. The figure does come with one accessory, which requires you to basically rip his jaw off. After that, you're going to want to take this atomic breath piece, which has a jaw attached to the bottom of it. That plugs in. The jaw positioning here opens way wider than the regular mouth could. It's not a horrendous atomic breath accessory, and I'm glad that they didn't force this to be a pack-in with some atomic breath version. It's just the texturing of this beam part in particular is a little bit weird. It kind of just looks like he's vomiting everywhere. The way it splashes open at the end kind of makes it look more like he's throwing up. That's literally it. And that's pretty much it for this figure. I mean, I don't know what else to comment on. That's all I got to say, so I guess we'll do some size comparisons now. For starters, here he is with a Playmates Godzilla figure. As you can see, he is noticeably shorter. Here he is with the Chibi Shin Godzilla my girlfriend won me at the arcade. And since this is one of Bandai's first articulated figures, here he is next to one of NECA's first articulated figures. These were also around $20, $25. So as you can see, sadly, we are not nearly up to par with NECA's quality. Here he is next to some 3.5-inch Super 7 blind box figures. I don't really like Super 7, but the metallic paint on these is really cool. And finally, here he is with Movie Monster Series Jet Jaguar Beta. I love Jet Jaguar, in case you didn't know that. I'm really interested to see where the action figure line with Bandai goes, because I see this as having a lot of potential. NECA was pretty rough off their first couple of batches of Godzilla figures, and from what I've heard, the Godzilla 1991 figure is the best out of the line, and apparently they locked in super hard. I'm glad I just got an official Godzilla -1 figure. As for a rating for this toy, I would give it a solid 6 out of 10, 6 to 7 out of 10. We'll stick with a 6. 6 out of 10 is good. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Godzilla -1 review. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you subscribe, like, turn on notifications, join my Discord, link in the description, and follow my Twitter for daily posts and schizophrenic ramblings. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna try and upload some more shorts, just keep my uploads more consistent now that I'm back in the groove of things. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I would also like to do more Godzilla reviews if you guys are interested in those. So yeah, with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.